Good morning, everyone. Today is another great career development day. It's Thursday, December the 3rd. And today we are going to be going over history and architectural designs. And then we'll also have some home features at the end. And I think I found some home features that, even I wasn't aware of the exact name. So I think that'll be a little interesting. So I am going to share my screen. If you have a question during it, just um, actually comment. Let me share my screen here. Whoops. Can you guys see my, the screen has all the pictures of all the houses?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna do one more thing here. Um, here. Okay. So today, of course, we're going over home designs. A couple people had said something about it, so I hope this and get some discussion going. But I do have a lot of slides to go over. I stayed up really early in the morning putting this together, just being mixed up with all my days and everything. But so Career Development Day, we're going to talk about the history. I'm not going to go over this one a lot because as you can see, there is a lot to go over. But I thought it was really interesting because all of our styles, our designs of homes, everything that we see came from something, came from a thought, an idea, a reason it was actually built. So the Neolithic at the top, you'll see 10,000 BC to 2800 BC. So I'm not going to linger on this, but if you'll kind of scroll down and look, it shows you, so the antiquity era, 2100 BC to 539 BC. And that's where all the ancient Egyptian, the Greek, and I literally this training could literally, we could talk about this all day. It was so amazing to me. So I would encourage you, because when you go in these different eras and see how they built their structures, why they built their structures, everything had a purpose. uh, so then we get to the Islamic, which is the 18th century, Africa, 16th and 17th, Southern Asia, um, Southeast Asia, the Oceanic. This was the huts that is like in Africa. That was a lot of the huts, which was a 1180 to 1200 after death. Eastern Asia, and we'll just kind of scroll on down. Then you get to Europe, which is the 10th through the 14th century, the medieval times, the Gothic, the Russian, the Renaissance time. So that was a really interesting time to see all the different structures that was built, temples and things like that. And then we get to the 16th to the 20th century. And if you follow those down, then you get the colonial architectural. Now we're starting to get more into what we're seeing a lot of, even though if you'll do your homework and kind of look at some of these other eras, you'll find some of those different um, things that they did in their building structure incorporated in some of the designs that we see and styles that we see today. Very, very interesting. Um, so we are going to go over a lot of this. So you have the early modern, which was late 1800s to 1940s, and that's like the skyscrapers. Um, when you go into the cities, DC, in St. Louis, Chicago, when we was in Chicago, we was walking around, Michael and I was walking around, and just the detail, they had the most beautiful buildings. And a lot of those came during this time, this early modern time. So not just homes, but commercial wise, the change evolved in commercial buildings. So Expressionist, Art Deco, 1920 to 1930, that was a short-lived time frame because it ended at the start of World War II. You still see some trickling here and there after that time frame, but that's when the hub of all the Art Deco was going on. International, contemporary, modern, critical regionalism, postmodern, 1950s. This is where you start seeing changes in the skyscrapers again. So people started bringing out more designs. And then we'll go down here, 1970, 1980 begins. And this is where you'll notice that they start as a whole, no matter what kind of, a lot of the designs started trying to promote environmentally friendly habits, like the trail, the walking trails, your little self-contained communities, like the little eco cities. So anyway, I hope you guys didn't think that was boring, but did you guys, has anybody done any of this and kind of seen their research on how the buildings came about? It's pretty cool. So I'm not going to go over all of these. This is what we're going to be seeing. A lot of these we will be seeing and going over some of the features of them. As we go over each feature, let me know if you have any other input you'd like to put in. We are being recorded, and any extra knowledge that can be brought to the table, because you all see lots of houses, let us know. And I don't know if Paula's on, but the glass house they had, I mean, I didn't check into that to see exactly what you would call that. So kind of in alphabetical order, we have the adobe. Of course, we're not going to see too many of those here, but it's good to know, because if you're working referrals and they're going to be buying outside the area and they tell you what they're wanting, they may tell you they want an adobe. So this is how they were originally structured. It is built out of organic materials. There is I don't watch a lot of TV, so there's a show that has a hut, and I don't know if it's a gremlin or what it is, but they live in this earth house, and the front part of it has a lot of this material on it. I wish I knew my shows, because you guys would know what I'm talking about.
I've been fortunate to sell a couple of these houses.
Awesome. Where were those at, Michael?
New Mexico.
Oh, cool. Okay, that stands for reason.
During my time as an asset manager, I would get to sell properties all across the country. And I had the opportunity to sell a couple of the Adobe style houses in New Mexico, and I believe a couple in Texas. It's neat to see things from across the country and learn a little bit about how things are built in different areas. So I've done Adobe houses. I've had to deal with properties in California that had this seismic retrofitting, which is basically a repair of earthquake damage, but they call it seismic retrofitting. And you just learn some things from the different regions across the country. And it was refreshing to see a different style of house than the ranchers and colonials that we basically see every day. And that's like all you see.
Exactly. And another thing too, that, and the reason we're doing this is because as realtors, it is really important that we understand homes, the different styles, but understanding for you, we want our agents to be well equipped to understand, like what Michael, he brought something to the table about seismic retrofitting, things like that. But if you have an understanding of certain features of homes, why they were even built, and I would go beyond, this is not in this PowerPoint, but I did farms and stuff, and I went and researched all the different styles of barns from all around the world. And it's so amazing how, because this is kind of a melting pot, when you go across this country, even the barn styles, and they're built for specific reasons. So I think this is very interesting. And notice too, Adobe's down here at the bottom, Middle East, West Africa. So it's not just where we would think just Spain and all, and then the Mexico and stuff, but I thought it was pretty cool to see they are in those areas. This is, I just love this era of housing, and we see them where we are very, very graced in our area to see a lot of this. 1880 to 1860. This will tell you that how you can denote a lot of them. They're going to have, and this one at the bottom, that's more of a modern type antebellum, and this is an older one. The huge pillars, the balconies that run across the whole, it'll either be the front or it can go around to the side, and large windows. And usually what you'll find is the doors are center, and there's a center entrance, but there's very, very wide porches. Inside, the interior features that you'll find inside these, you'll see a lot of crystal chandeliers. If you are fortunate enough, I've seen many of these and sold them, but they're the original chandeliers that actually came from Italy, that were gas lights converted to electric, that when it was built, it literally was using the gas lights. It was pretty cool. Tall ceilings, usually around 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet, massive doors. This frieze, this is, and I think I'm saying that wrong. I thought I had that down in my head, but this is actually when you go into the older homes, and it actually is for the newer homes too, but in these particular ones, you may very well see plaster casted crown moldings, medallions around the chandeliers at the top with intricate and ornate designs in them. They will usually have nice large staircases, and they have libraries, parlor rooms, formal dining rooms, and such. I'm sure everybody has been in these in one form or fashion, especially in our area. I'm sure everybody this time of year would like to go to one of these, a beach house. And of course, we know they usually have lots of light where they let lot of light in, but of course on the beach, they're going to be mostly post and beam. They're going to be raised because of the location and the water. But in our area, we'll see what we'll call a beach house, because it's going to have all the characteristics of a beach house. It's just not on post and beam. How many of you have actually walked into a home around here and you literally felt like you were at the beach? So we do have a lot of these, just not post and beam. Bungalow. I thought this was, we're going to get into a lot of the things about a lot of the homes around here. So bungalows, it's funny that they originated in India. But in the Englishmen in 1659, they had different names for them. These are all the different terms that they were called. But in the English bungalow term was originated in 1820. I personally didn't realize the bungalows were that, they dated back that far in America and called that. And they're usually lower buildings with wide verandas and drooping attics. So they almost kind of look like, to me, they almost look like a Craftsman and a Cape Cod kind of combined, is kind of what they look like. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to say as far as bungalows and what you consider when you look at them? Okay, so Cape Cod. So once again, So you have the dormer, the huge dormer, but the Cape Cod, it is a successor of the colonial revival, which we'll see in a little bit, 1930s to 1950s. It was created after the colonists from England. So they kind of, when the English came over, they had specific type of housing, but then they started adding different features to it to become what we know them today. Different designs were put on them. So the Cape Cod as we know it is really a reinvention of some of the colonial revivals that you'll see. They're denoted a lot by the steep pitch. Here's several versions arrived, wooden clapboard shutters, and that's the older ones, but you normally will see shutters on them. There's always a steep pitch to the roof, and there's dormers. Some people like them and some people don't. Some people think it has a lot of wasted space at the top, but it allows light to come in. But we see a lot of Cape Cods around here. Here's just your regular colonial. And it's, again, European influence. They started around 1600s. And I'll drop down here. So it was in the 1700s when the colonial houses were developed out of the US colonial period. The first design was with 2-story homes with only one room on each floor. So if you go back to the much earlier ones, you're going to see that they're not as large. But then later, that's when they started getting the 4/4. So 4 rooms up and 4 rooms down. You'll see this in a lot of your stately manor homes also. And usually they're going to have some type of little awning of some type decorating the entrance. And the entrance is always in the center. And then symmetrically the windows around. Contemporary. So here we go. We're starting in the 60s and the 70s. Certain things you did in those eras, I guess, made you see things a lot differently. So you're going to start looking at different styles of homes. And these are honestly, if you look up contemporary homes across the country, depending on the area that you live, the style is going to be a little bit different for the climate. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to have more of a natural look, geometrical shapes, round things, rectangular. They were trying to incorporate all the different types of shapes and features from exterior on the inside, larger windows, sliding doors, to let a lot of the natural light in. We see a lot of contemporaries in this area also.
One of the famous modern architects was...
I can't hear you, June.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't hear you.
One of the famous architects was Frank Lloyd Wright of the modern era. And there's a place up in Pennsylvania called Falling Waters that has one of his homes that's supposed to be really pretty.
I was just talking about Frank Lloyd Wright with someone else the other day. Matter of fact, one of my clients, because she likes specific type of homes, and she walked in, she said, I would, if I didn't know it wasn't true, I would think Frank Lloyd Wright built this home when she went in. So she was well-versed too. I'm glad you brought him up.
Steve has sold a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
Oh, where was that one at?
I don't remember the details. I believe he sold it at an auction.
How cool is that?
But yeah, you'll have to check with him on that. But yeah, Steve has actually sold a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
That's interesting. So now we have Craftsman Contemporary. You have the regular Craftsman, which we'll go over, and then the Craftsman Contemporary. 1905 and early 1930s. That was the time frame that Craftsman was actually big, and that's the era that it's called. Um, they express themselves with arts and crafts. There again, I mean, the English had a huge bearing on the different structures and styles of home that we did. I was just looking at some of my, I'm sorry, I was looking at the picture of the house and I wasn't looking at my notes to the side. I want to look at some of the features here.
Sheila, one of the interesting historical facts is Sears Roebuck used to sell craftsman homes through their catalog with kits and different things.
Yes, I actually sold some, and there's an actual inn, the Milton Inn in Stanley, Virginia, is a Sears and Roebuck. And when I had that listed, it was so fun to, they literally still had the book and they still had all the papers from that. So it was really cool to do that. It is amazing. There's more of those around here than we think there are. The younger people today was like, what, you ordered it from Sears book?
Yeah, there's a neighborhood and there's a subdivision in Hagerstown right near what used to be Fairchild Industries, where they built airplanes for World War II, and it's basically nothing but Sears and Roebuck houses. And nobody knows that it's all these Sears houses, and it's pretty cool. It's basically 3 different styles of houses through the whole neighborhood.
And it's just
Largest-
like,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say my largest commission ever was a Sears house. It's a Sears Craftsman house on 20 acres. That was my largest commission I ever earned.
Real,
Cool.
and they're nice homes, and honestly, you don't know, and it's no different than like you could order the kits and stuff used to from 84 Lumber and stuff, but Sears definitely. I just think it's really cool, especially when you have all your original catalogs and stuff. So anyway, some of the features on there is exposed beams in the rafters, the present, not to mention the dynamic connection between the interior and the exterior. So that's like the contemporary one is where it's connecting. It's not a breezeway or whatever. It's actually connecting everything. Country homes, they are denoted from, I just think it's amazing. Here we go with the colonial again, also style homes. You can see it's very evident in a lot of the majority of the homes that we have, especially out east here. But they're denoted a lot by the wraparound porches, either on one side or all the way around or 3/4 of the way. A lot of them, even a lot of newer ones are, if they're truly a country home, they're putting the tin roof on, but not all of them. The modern ones do not. They've chosen to put some type of shingled roof on it. But they also, again, they're symmetrical. The windows are all arranged just like the colonial style. They're very symmetrical with their windows. And 1 and 2 stories, because they started one way, but then now they're 1 or 2 stories, or 1.5 actually. You'll see them 1.5. Now we're to the Craftsman, and I wish I had put the thing about Sears in here, but they come in a lot of different ways. But the things that kind of help denote it, they usually have some kind of shingled siding, or and I know a lot of them have been resided and have clapboard on it now, but some of them will have stone, but a lot of them, like they'll have a porch and they'll have overhanging, they'll have this. Can you see my arrow? Like how this overlaps outside. It's not flush, it overlaps the eaves and stuff. It usually has a little bit deeper gabled roof, pillars lining the entrance. This is one thing that you'll notice on a lot of Craftsmen, that they'll have some type of pillars upon the entrance, and double hung windows, and some type of dormer also. These are so cute. I actually got an older style one with the older type roof, the English cottage, and more of what you would kind of see today. They used to be smaller. Cottages were smaller. If you go to the Frontier Culture Museum, Stephen, you would love that. You need to make sure you go to it. It's in Stanton, Virginia, the Frontier Culture Museum. One of the homes that they have there, they went to the countries and they brought them over and they put them back up, and they actually do their farms the way they did it then. But they were a lot smaller than this, but over the years they have gotten bigger, but they have steep roof lines. The more modern ones, the older ones had the pitch and the grass, all the earthly materials on there, but then over time, then they start putting slate on there. Large prominent chimneys. So in your English cottages, you're going to definitely see large chimneys because they utilize those. They're for decoration now, but in the English times, those were utilized. That was their way of life. So not just cooking, but many things. So if you go to the Frontier Culture Museum, you'll get to go to a lot of different structures from across the world and watch how they actually did the farming and everything at that era of time in the 1700s and stuff. A lot of times they'll have some type of round type door, so that little cottage. They'll also try to implement large timbers and have some type of little, it's not a big porch, just a little tiny quaint porch with something that you could stand there and not get wet. Farmhouses, we see plenty of these around. Again, all these things with steep pitches. When you go to re-roof a house and you got a steep pitch, that's gonna cost you a little bit more, but a lot of them do have a little bit steeper pitch. The majority, you're going to see, once again, porches. This one here to the left, this is an older one, and that really resembles, you can, if you took the porches away and stuff, you can really go back and almost see where that colonial style just got added to, basically, is what it did. But you see a lot of these in the city, the towns, and it's not just on the farms. I mean, they build these, a lot of people like these style of homes. Federal colonial, 1780 to 1840. They were also called the Adam, but more commonly known as the federal. But they are, everybody's seen these. If you go out east, we have these here. Matter of fact, there's some in Winchester, and you'll see the tall windows. And over the door, usually you'll have some type of arch like this. Like this is a row of them. This one just happens to have a yard. So this home here would have been more of an aristocratic type home because they had more land. But a lot of them, when they settled, like you go into DC, you're going to see they're literally right on the sidewalk. It wasn't they didn't need the yards and everything. So you're going to see a lot of these in DC also. Has anybody been in these?
Federal one right down at the end of Amherst Street and Boscawen, I believe it is. It's a white building with the dormers on top like that.
Yeah, it's so, I just love the designs. So I'm going to say this wrong. I had it down in my head, but this word right here, frieze, I'm going to butcher it up, so I'm not going to try it again. But this is talking about all the, like the different sculptures and different along the ceiling, like we know as crown molding. dental molding, things like that. You'll find that in a lot of these homes. Even the newer ones built to look federal colonial, they're going to add those. So this is a Florida home. And again, you're going to see some styles like this kind of resemble a Florida home in this area. That looks more like actually in Florida. But they have large porch area, but not when, I wouldn't say large, they say large, but it has a porch area. Like you have an actual porch area. It's not where you're gonna go out and have tea and stuff, but has a porch area. The house kind of wraps around. It's not symmetrical. They're gonna incorporate different shapes. Like you'll notice down here, it's a Florida style, but it's not symmetrical, and it wraps around. So the house isn't like one, either width or deep. It'll have kind of a wrap around like this is wrapping around. So this one tends to have more of the squared features. This one here incorporated a lot of your architectural, like a lot of your rounded edges and stuff. So this is basically a lot of what, and they'll have verandas and things like that. So this is, and plus no basement because they don't need one in Florida. French Country, I gotta watch the time because I'm gonna go fast here. You guys, this is gonna be on recording, so you guys can go, because literally I have a lot of slides. There's a lot of styles of homes. This is the French Country over here, and it almost takes the like the wraparound. It takes a lot of features from a lot of different homes, but it's more of a French type home, and that was around the 18th century. But this is more French influenced. The Georgian, this was pretty cool. I did not know this. So the style boomed in the 18th century. And it actually got its name because the King Georges, it's the Georgian era, and that's how it got its name. The Georgian style is because it came about during the reigns of the King Georges, which I thought that was pretty cool. So it has a passage center, like in the center as you go in. There's some grand details, and it usually always is denoted by some type of ornate, some type of really decorative entrance like this. Greek Revival, I have two different ones on here, so different styles. So Greek Revival, 18th century and early 19th century, symmetrical again, denoted by tons of columns, dormers, and the reason they built these, because we're a melting pot, and this is to try to resemble the Greek temples. So the Greek Revival was made to kind of pull in their homeland and replicate the Greek temples. If you go down to Orkney Springs, you'll see Mount Shrinemont down there, and it has like 4 stories. If you've never been there, you need to take a little trip down there. It's a really cool place to go look, and you could go inside and look at it too. Log homes, we actually know, all of us have seen lots of these, but they usually have some type of lots of windows for lighting to come through, some type of porch. They're going to have that great room feel with the kitchen and the great room, the living room and everything. Chinking, for those that don't know, the old hand-hewn log homes had the old chinking. In the town of Newmarket, there's a lot of clapboard. If you drive down the town, you'll think that they're all just clapboard. If you took all those clapboards off, the majority of the homes in Newmarket down Main Street are the old log homes with the old hand-hewn and the chinking. The chinking, the old-time chinking was 2 parts clay, like dirt, 2 parts silt, and 1 part ash, and they'd have to sift it out to make sure there was no particles in there, like from the silt and the ashes. And that's how they basically made their chinking. Today's chinking is synthetic. Um, and some of your log homes today do have drywall on the inside. Whoop, Mediterranean. Let me go back there to Mediterranean. Of course, influenced by the Mediterranean Sea. It's a Spanish modern type home. They also incorporated, you're going to see like stucco type materials, earth materials used in the Mediterranean home. It's bringing, they are all about not just interior, but exterior. They bring the exterior in, as well as vice versa. You're going to see a lot of like gable, your roof, I just went brain dead. Your roofs, gabled roofs like this. You're going to see a lot of ornate wrought iron on your porches. You're going to see a lot of mixture of, once again, shapes. The Mediterranean has beautiful designs. You don't see too many of those here. I have a couple, but you don't see too many of them. Mid-century modern. So we're in 1933 to 1965. And now they're going to be, that's kind of the early version of where they were looking at your ecosystem, because they use geometric shapes. They try to bring in as much light as possible. And they use shapes that actually didn't flow together a lot of times also, something different. Then you went from there and you went straight to the modern architecture design. And this was after these kind of crossed over, actually. They're kind of crossed over. But these have more square things going on, the more modern here. The mid-century had a little bit more character to it. Your modern here, this came after World War II. There's not that much ornamental things in it. It's more rectangular and horizontal designs of your modern. Your mountain type homes, a lot of wood siding, shingles, logs. It could be made of a lot of different materials, but it definitely has it has a lot of open space, and it also has loft areas. Northwest, your Northwest style home. We see a lot of these here in a lot of different subdivisions. This one happens to have like a carriage style garage door adorning the front of it. But 1935 to 1960, it's defined by the use of the unpainted wood on both of its interior and exterior. So you're going to see a lot of mixture of wood in different areas and stone. I'm watching time. I've really got to hurry up here because I want to get to the bottom, the last part. Prairie home. This is common in the Midwest area. You'll see a lot of flat, kind of slanted flat roofs. That's kind of denoted in lots of square designs to that. Here we see lots of these actually all across the country. Is your the American Ranch, California Ranch, Rancher, Rambler. People call them all different kinds of things. It's just a ranch, but they come in all different styles anymore. But they were famous in post-war middle class from the years 1940 to 1970. But truly, there's a lot of them it's easy living. If you have somebody that wants to downsize, they're getting older and they don't want a lot of steps, what better design than I think they offer the easiest living of any home, because you can do it where there's no steps. So you have the shingle home. These are the type of homes you'll see in Martha's Vineyard, New Jersey, Nantucket, up on the East Coast. Moderately pitched roof. They'll have some gables on them, and a lot of them you might even see towers on them, polygon towers, Spanish style homes, that stucco exterior wood. I'm sorry, I'm trying to hurry because there's a lot of slides here. Southwestern home. So I'm sure Michael, when he was out west, there's these Southwestern style homes, Spanish influence. This is kind of a step up from the adobe, but nonetheless, it's still using those same type of designs, only using different types of material and starting to straighten out the lines instead of curved lines. And that's the Southwestern. So you have the adobe, and then you have the English coming out west, and now everything's starting to take its own form and its own shapes. So cool watching all this, I think. Traditional style home. It's almost like where the Mediterranean kind of wraps around. And it's this one here, you can see so many different designs in it, but this 1940 to 1950 is when this basically dominated, but you'll still see these in subdivisions. Here in Harrisonburg, there's a Highlands subdivision, and there's a lot of homes kind of built like this. The Tudor home is so cool because it has these wide beams. It's denoted by these wide beams. And if you go to the Stanton, the Frontier Culture Museum, once again, you're going to go into 1700 was one of these, get to see the way it's made, how they lived in that era, and truly see how this design came from that to present. And they still use the same type of materials to build a Tudor home. A Tuscan home, a lot of stone on the Tuscan home and lots of wrought iron. Has a very resembles the Mediterranean a lot because they use a lot of the same types of materials. One of my favorites, I lived in one for like 10 years. It's one of my favorites. And I Italianate, it has more squared. They usually have a widow's peak at the top, or a cupola. It's called a lot of different things, but you're going to find these different types. Here's a Queen Anne, but there's a lot of different types. But this 1837 to 1901 was the Victorian era. Once again, inside of these homes, you're going to find lots of ornate details. Craftsmen went in and done intricate woodworking. You'll see it even on the outside of a lot of the homes. Rustic home, take an old barn. I've seen that plenty times. There's a barn in Shenandoah County that they actually live upstairs, and it's beautiful. And down here is still a barn, and they have a gorgeous home upstairs. We're about at the end, so we'll be at the fun stuff and get over, have 10 minutes to do it. So townhomes, we all know what townhomes are, just a multi-story home. And then they're connected one way or the other. Some have garages, some do not. We have the condos. There's different types of condos, but they have community areas. They don't have a yard or anything. They have airspace. And then, of course, I didn't put pictures of the tiny houses. In different areas across the country, it's being well received, and they're allowing communities of tiny houses to go up without a lot of flack. But the actual definition of a tiny house is 500 square feet, 500 square feet with actually 120 or less livable square foot. Does not seem like a lot, but here in Rockingham County, I talked to the zoning gentleman, Mike, and he said, I asked him, what's the smallest house that you can build in Rockingham County? And he said a 12 by 12. I said, that's like a dog kennel size. He said, yep. I said, so you're telling me you can build, and he said, yes. So in Rockingham County, you can build a 12 by 12 home. Okay, so let me make sure I didn't, yeah. So here's the fun stuff. Does anybody know, or do you know what barge board is.
Never heard that expression.
I was finding so many cool things. So inside this, the gables, like up in here, you'll notice there's some, a lot of people will call like gingerbread things, but it isn't just the gingerbread look. It actually is barge board, all this, and it's to strengthen and help for the weatherization inside of these gables, but it's called barge board. That was pretty cool. See, these are the things like when you say something and you're out with a client, say, I never heard that before. Clara's story. Does anybody know what that is? And you could say it a couple different ways. I wanted to make sure I said it right, but you could say it a couple different ways. It is where you take out, like you've noticed maybe there's a bank of windows that's been fitted up in the ceiling somehow, not skylights, but actual windows, whether they're fixed or they're movable. Like they said, it's not just in churches, it's actually up above. So a lot of people will open up their attic, and so this could have been the attic space, and they opened it up, framed it out, and put basically lighting there, opened it up to outside. That's what that is. And then not just for looks and lighting, but it actually helps on the utility bills also. Enfilade and filade, I heard a couple people say this one different ways, but how many has been in a room? So if you're in a shotgun house or you're with a client and you say this word, that is an architectural design where it's interconnected, like a shotgun house, like a lot of your castles. If it has a straight through shot like this, that's what an enfilade is. More commonly here, we're going to see it in a shotgun house, but there are some older style homes you can walk in and you're going to be able to see from front to back. I don't have a picture of this. I did not know. I wear a slip, so I didn't know a slip was something else. A slip, and one of you guys may already know this, and I just didn't know it, but you have your hearth and stuff of your fireplace, the bottom part that is different types of material. It's a horizontal strip inside the fireplace and surrounding it, surrounded by marble and tile. But that's what a slip is. I thought that was pretty cool. Now you're going to see this. I've seen this before. I did not know it was an ingle nook. In your older style homes, you'll see this in Tudor homes also. I've seen it in Tudor homes that I've been in, and I'm guessing this could be possibly one. I'm looking at some of the designs in the home, but it's where you have a fireplace. And many years ago, even before late 19th century, many years ago, they would have these even in the old American style farmhouses, like the log homes. They would have these because this would be really big, this fireplace, and they would cook on it. So they had these benches next to it so they could keep an eye on what they were cooking. So ingle nook is like benches or sitting areas around a fireplace. Did anybody know that? And here's a gablet. We all see these on, how many homes do we see this on? We see it all the time. I did not know this. Who knew this was a gablet? This, and you see it on all styles of homes. Here, this is like a garage, a commercial building. So it's at the peak of the roof where it all slopes together. It's just this triangle portion, like over a dormer window, on your Cape Cods and things like that, a gablet. If you forget these, I have them. This is being recorded, so you can come back and look. Ox eye. Without looking at the description on this home, does anybody know where the ox eye is?
Second story on the other side of that door.
Yep, right here. So anywhere, now this particular home, it's right here, but you can see these ox eye windows in many different types of designs of homes. So when you're showing your client, you say, oh, I love that. Matter of fact, here in Harrisonburg, I can go down 42 and there's a lot of homes that have ox eyes in their side. It's like, especially like it's used a lot if you have a hallway, a staircase going up and there's a wall. This was a great way to put, it's not a functional window, it's an ox eye to allow lighting in. So you could put that in new buildings also. Okay. I know I'm going to butcher this name, Coins. I may have
Coins, yeah, just like pennies, dimes, nickels.
that's what I thought it was, Coins. I said it over and over before the thing. So that is denoting these mason blocks that you see. You'll see this in a lot of different, especially in the older towns. I'm sure if you go to Winchester, matter of fact, over here, this home has it right here, the coins, and that's what that's called. It's coin. This looks like a house in St. Louis, actually. Okay, a Scunchwin.
Hey,
This,
Sheila,
yeah.
it's 1026.
Oh, okay. I'm two more and I'm done. So Scunchwin, this is the inside of a casing of a window. A Muntin, that is these little things that we call panes, but it's the actual thing. They come in all different ways, arched, English style or whatever, but that's what these little, what we call panes are not panes. It's the actual wood part or whatever material. That's all, folks.
That was awesome.
So I hope somebody got something out of that. I'm going to stop sharing so I can stop the recording. And a good thing about it, it's being recorded so you guys can go on. And I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Have a good day, you guys.